Holy days on the calendar. Church celebrated holidays. Holy days and their derivative holidays are important to every religion and tradition. Holy days celebrate events and people important to a religion. On holy days, worshippers take special note of their own existence and its meaning within the context of their beliefs. In many nations, these holidays influence governments, politics, and especially the school calendar. Christian holy days. Good Friday. This is the day formerly known by Jewish traditions as Preparation Day. It was also the day Jesus was crucified, and on this day they removed the body of Jesus from the cross and placed him in the tomb or sepulchre prior to sunset of the Sabbath day, Saturday, starting. Seventh Day of God Remembrance Day. This is the day that Jesus rested in the tomb and sepulchre, and the day that Jesus' mother, Mary, and the other Marys and the disciples rested. They worshiped this day in remembrance of Jesus, who taught them many things, including sharing the gospel and words of God with all nations. The Easter Sunday used to be known as the first day of the week, the day that Jesus was resurrected from the grave or sepulchre, known as Sunday. Not a day of worship, but a day that was supposed to be, for our longest time, known as the day that Jesus was resurrected on the third day since the time of being crucified for the remission of our sins. However, due to the new discovery that Jesus said in 3 days he will tear down and rebuild the temple, meaning himself, there is a problem with the time, because the evening and the morning were the first day, which became Saturday. Evening and the morning became the second day, which is Sunday. Therefore, the evening and the morning, which became the third day, means he was resurrected on a Monday, not Sunday. Easter Sunday is a pagan holiday started by Nimrod and his queen wife, Ishtar, because they had a son that got killed by a boar hog on the rising of the sun. Therefore, due to history's past of religious beliefs, this was not a correct day that he was resurrected. This was started by the apostate Roman Catholic Church at that time. Christmas. Though considered a pagan holiday, this day isn't so much about giving and receiving gifts as it is about the 3 wise men who bore gifts to the baby Jesus and the parents, Mary and Joseph. His actual birthday was during the summer months, so this is just a day to inspire members as to what Christmas really is about, and not the pagan belief that is based on the Christmas day traditionally celebrated. Lent. From Wikipedia, the Free Encyclopedia. This article is principally about Lent in Western Christianity. For details about Lent in Orthodox Christianity, see Great Lent. For other uses, see Lent disambiguation, a solemn observation in the liturgical year of many Christian denominations, lasting for a period of approximately 6 weeks leading up to Easter Sunday. In the general Latin Rite and most Western denominations, Lent is taken to run from Ash Wednesday to Maundy, that is Thursday or Holy Thursday morning, to Easter Eve. In the Catholic Church, Lent lasts until Holy Thursday, while other denominations run until Easter Eve. Palm Sunday, from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. For the Kurt Vonnegut book, see Palm Sunday book, a Christian movable feast that falls on the Sunday before Easter. The feast commemorates Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem, an event mentioned in all four canonical Gospels. In many Christian churches, Palm Sunday includes a procession of the assembled worshippers carrying palms representing the palm branches, the crowd scattered in front of Jesus as he rode into Jerusalem. The difficulty of procuring palm branch symbol in unfavorable climates led to their substitution with branches of native trees, including box, yew, willow, and olive. The Sunday was often designated by the names of these trees, as in Yew Sunday or by term Branch Sunday. Thursday's Last Supper Day. This is a day similar to that known as Holy Thursday. Not that this day isn't holy, but to distinguish ourselves from the being Catholic or affiliations with the Roman Catholic Church. The SDG, Seventh-day of God Church, calls this Thursday Last Supper Day. Other than the time that is celebrated on Friday, day before the Sabbath, and 2 days before Easter, this day is a day of getting together for fellowship. It's a prayer meeting and day of remembrance of when Jesus had his Last Supper with his chosen disciples. After this special prayer meeting, a potluck is then following to officiate the end of the fasting days of Lent. Ascension Day. From Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. The Ascension of Jesus, angelicized from the Vulgate Latin, Acts chapter 1, verse 9 through 11, section title Ascentio Issue, is in the New Testament that the resurrected Jesus was taken up to heaven in his resurrected body in the presence of 11 of his apostles, occurring 40 days after the resurrection. In the biblical narrative, an angel tells the watching disciples that Jesus' second coming will take place in the same manner as his ascension. The canonical gospel includes 2 brief descriptions of the ascension of Jesus in Luke chapter 24, verse 50 through 53, and Mark chapter 16, verse 19. A more detailed account of Jesus' bodily ascension into the clouds is then given in the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 1, verse 9 through 11. The ascension of Jesus is professed in the Nicene Creed and in the Apostles' Creed. The ascension implies Jesus' humanity being taken into heaven. The Feast of the Ascension, celebrated on the 40th day of Easter, always a Thursday, is one of the chief feasts of the Christian year. The feast dates back at least to the later 4th century, as is widely attested. The Ascension is one of the 5 major milestones in the gospel narrative of the life of Jesus, the others being baptism, transfiguration, crucifixion, and resurrection. By the 6th century, the iconography of the Ascension in Christian art had been established, and by the 9th century, Ascension scenes were being depicted on domes of churches. Many Ascension scenes have 2 parts, an upper heavenly part and a lower earthly part. The ascending Jesus is often shown blessing with his right hand directed towards the earthly group below him and signifying that he is blessing the entire church. Pentecost. From Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. This article is about for the Jewish holiday, see Shavuot. For other uses, see Pentecost disambiguation. Pentecost, ancient Greek, the 50th day is the Greek name for the Feast of Weeks, a prominent feast in the ancient Israel, celebrating the giving of the law on Sinai. This feast is still celebrated in Judaism as Shavuot. Later in the Christian liturgical year, it became a feast commemorating the descent of the Holy Spirit upon the apostles and other followers of Jesus Christ, 120 in all, as described in the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 2, verse 1 through 31. For this reason, Pentecost is sometimes described by some Christians today as the birthday of the church. In the Eastern Church, Pentecost can also refer to the whole 50 days between Easter and Pentecost, hence the book containing the liturgical text for Paschaltide is called the Pentecosterion. The feast is also called White Sunday or Whitsun, especially in England, where the following Monday was traditionally a public holiday. Pentecost is celebrated 7 weeks, 50 days after Easter. Sunday, hence its name, Pentecost falls on the 10th day after Ascension Thursday. The Pentecostal movement of Christianity derives its name from the New Testament event. The next one, holidays we'll be covering, is the adopted and accepted holidays after this brief moment. The adopted and accepted holidays. William Wallace Day from Wikipedia, the Free Encyclopedia. Sir William Wallace, medieval Gaelic, William Wallace, modern Scottish Gaelic, William Wallace, Norman French, and William Le Wallace died 23rd of August, 1305. Was a Scottish landowner who became one of the main leaders during the Wars of Scottish Independence. Along with Andrew Moray, Wallace defeated an English army at the Battle of Stirling Bridge in 1297 and was Guardian of Scotland, serving until his defeat at the Battle of Falkirk in July 1298. In 1305, Wallace was captured in Robroyston near Glasgow and handed over to King Edward I of England, who had him hanged, drawn, and quartered for high treason and crimes against English civilians. Since his death, Wallace has obtained an iconic status for beyond his homeland. He is the protagonist of the 15th century epic poem, The Wallace by Blind Harry. Wallace is also the subject of literary works by Sir Walter Scott and Jane Porter and the 1995 Academy Award-winning epic film Braveheart. The SDG thoughts on this day being celebrated is to the fact that, A, since Cinco de Mayo was never part of the United States, yet nothing is being done to restrict that holiday from our calendar, then it's only fair that those of us with Scottish heritage be allowed to celebrate this day as well. After all, you can't have your cake and eat it too. The other thing is that St. Patrick's Day, which we will cover a little later on, is not about an Irish day. It's about a Catholic member from the apostate Roman Catholic Church who went to Ireland converting people. So therefore, that is rejected, but we will come to that in a little later, as I said. So, until such time Cinco de Mayo is boycotted off the U.S. calendar of America, we choose to celebrate William Wallace Day. So, that's just how that works. Leif Erikson Day from Wikipedia, the Free Encyclopedia. This is an Icelandic name. The last name is patronymic, not a family name. This person is properly referred to by the given name Leif, Leifur, or Leifur. Leif Erikson. Norwegian, who was born 970 AD to 1020 AD, was a Norse explorer regarded as the first European to land in North America, excluding Greenland, nearly 500 years before Christopher Columbus. According to the sagas of Icelanders, he established a Norse settlement at Vinland, tentatively identified with the Norse lands Ox Meadows on the northern tip of Newfoundland in modern-day Canada. It is believed that Leif was born in Iceland around the 970s, the son of Mother Theohildur and Father Eric the Red, an explorer and outlaw from western Norway. Eric founded the first Norse colonies in Greenland and was based at the family estate Brattahlio. That's a hard one to explain. In the so-called Eastern Settlement, where Leif had his upbringing. Leif had two known sons, Thorgils, born to noble woman Thorgunna in the Hebrides, and Thorkel, who succeeded him as chieftain of the Greenland settlement. It wasn't long ago that a Norseman's huge, it's a huge boulder with Viking hieroglyphs were discovered, and for the longest time sat undisturbed along this major body of water or river. Conveniently, the corrupt U.S. government, although they will deny it, had their evil secret societies, be they Illuminati, Freemasons, or the Bohemian Grove, or all of them together, as this would have been one heavy thing to remove from its resting spot for throughout many, many, many centuries, give it a millennium or two, and therefore it's now missing, because they do not want any of us to know the truth. Christopher Columbus was a member of the apostate Roman Catholic Church, and that church had endorsed his exploration, even though it was a king and or queen that had sent him out to discover the Americas. Christopher Columbus never even got close and landed in South America, which we all know the rest of the story. The Spaniards finally came and then started slaughtering men, women, and children of the Incas, Mayans, and Aztecs of Peru. So, why we celebrate Columbus Day, since he never came to North America, is beyond me. Again, we are talking secret societies here, so who knows, maybe they're going to smoke a little too much weed. But anyway, so we choose not to celebrate Columbus Day now, and especially until such time that boulder with the Viking hieroglyphs is returned back to where it belongs. You can't fool us. We know you serve the devil, and you don't want us to know the truth. You're the ones that took the boulder. So, don't, as the old pioneers used to say, don't pee down my back and tell me it's raining. We know the truth. So, when it returns, then we'll see about giving Columbus his due. Washington's birthday, from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. Washington's birthday is a United States federal holiday celebrated on the third Monday of February in honor of General George Washington, who became the first president of the United States, and concurrent with President's Day. Washington's birthday is commonly referred to as President's Day, sometimes spelled President Day. Both Lincoln and Washington's are in February. Lincoln's birthday, from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. Lincoln's birthday is a legal holiday in some U.S. states, including Arizona, California, Connecticut, Illinois, Missouri, New Jersey, New York, and Indiana, USA. It is observed on the anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth on February 12, 1809. President's Day, from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. President's Day may refer to a holiday in some regions of the United States on the third Monday of February. Notice, for this holiday, until such time changes are made to terminate permanently and indefinitely the evil plans for an evil New World Order, it is recognized by both the United Federation of Planets and the four branches of service, UF Army, Starfleet, UFAF, and the UFMC, as separate from Washington's birthday, though it is held on the same day as Washington's birthday. Furthermore, it is contention of the UFP and its four branches of service to give honor to that of a U.S. president who is in his elected position of the United States of America. However, due to government corruption by the government elite and evil secret societies, this day is boycotted by most U.S. citizens who are true American patriots as a result of a president who is not an American. Thus, as we have our first ever non-American president, this holiday will not be celebrated any time during his term, till such time the Speaker of the House exercises federal constitutional law and initiates the rules of impeachment based on the treason charges. At the time, it was a total of 18 to 30, of which is punishable by the death penalty against the current president. However, as an update, he now has an estimated 45 plus counts of treason. If the Speaker of the House can't do their job, then they are either a coward or traitor and are subject to impeachment as well upon such a time that civil war erupts as a reluctant result to resolve the protection and defense of the U.S. Constitution and the nation's security. Likewise, the SDG Church will follow this path in respect to the founding forefathers who were U.S. citizens that established the federal constitutional laws with Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. Martin Luther King Jr. Day from Wikipedia, the Free Encyclopedia. Martin Luther King Jr., born January 15, 1929 until April 4, 1968, was an American clergyman, activist, humanitarian, and leader in the African American civil rights movement. He is best known for his role in the advancement of civil rights using nonviolent civil disobedience. King has become a national icon in the history of American progressivism. Born Michael King, his father changed his name in honor of German reformer Martin Luther. A Baptist minister, King became a civil rights activist early in his career. He led the 1955 Montgomery bus boycott and helped found the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, in 1957, serving as its first president. With the SCLC, King led an unsuccessful struggle against segregation in Albany, Georgia in 1962, and organized nonviolent protests in Birmingham, Alabama that attracted national attention following television news coverage of the brutal police response. King also helped to organize the 1963 March on Washington, where he delivered his "I Have a Dream" quote-unquote speech. There he established his reputation as one of the greatest orators in American history. He also established his reputation as a radical and became an object of the Federal Bureau of Investigation's COINTELPRO for the rest of his life. FBI agents investigated him for possible communist ties, recorded his extramarital liaisons, and reported on them to government officials, and on one occasion mailed King a threatening anonymous letter that he interpreted as an attempt to make him commit suicide. On October 14, 1964, King received the Nobel Peace Prize for combating racial inequality through nonviolence. In 1965, he and the SCLC helped organize the Selma to Montgomery marches, and the following year he took the movement north to Chicago. In the final years of his life, King expanded his focus to include poverty and the Vietnam War, alienating many of his liberal allies with a 1967 speech titled Beyond Vietnam, quote unquote. King was planning a national occupation of Washington, D.C. called the Poor People's Campaign. King was assassinated on April 4, 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee. His death was followed by riots in many U.S. cities. Allegations that James Earl Ray, the man convicted of killing King, had been framed or acted in concert with government agents persisted for decades after the shooting, and the jury of a 1999 civil trial found Lloyd Jowers to be complicit in a conspiracy against King. King was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom and the Congressional Gold Medal. Posthumously, Martin Luther King Jr. Day was established as a U.S. federal holiday in 1986. Hundreds of streets in the U.S. have been renamed in his honor. A memorial statue on the National Mall was opened to the public in 2011. Mother's Day from Wikipedia, the Free Encyclopedia. Mother's Day is a celebration honoring mothers and motherhood, material bonds, and the influence of mothers in society. It is celebrated on various days in many parts of the world, most commonly in March or May. It complements Father's Day, a similar celebration honoring fathers. The celebration of Mother's Day began in the United States in the early 20th century. It is not related to the many celebrations of mothers and motherhood that have occurred throughout the world over thousands of years, such as the Greek cult to Cybele, the Roman festival of Hilaria, or the Christian Mothering Sunday celebration. Despite this, in some countries, Mother's Day has become synonymous with these older traditions. Memorial Day, from Wikipedia, the Free Encyclopedia. A United States federal holiday which occurs every year on the final Monday of May. Memorial Day is a day of remembering the men and women who died while serving in the United States Armed Forces, formerly known as Decoration Day. It originated after the American Civil War to commemorate the Union and Confederate soldiers who died in the Civil War. By the 20th century, Memorial Day had been extended to honor all Americans who have died while in the military service. It typically marks the start of the summer vacation season, while Labor Day marks its end. Many people visit cemeteries and memorials, particularly to honor those who have died in military service. Many volunteers place an American flag on each grave in national cemeteries. Annual decoration days for particular cemeteries are held on a Sunday in late spring or early summer in some rural areas of the American South, notably in the mountains. In cases involving a family graveyard where remote ancestors as well as those who were deceased more recently are buried, this may take on the character of an extended family reunion to which some people travel hundreds of miles. People gather on the designated day and put flowers on graves and renew contacts with kinfolk and others. There often is a religious service and a dinner on the ground, quote unquote, the traditional term for a potluck meal in which people used to spread the dishes out on sheets or on the grass. It is believed that this practice began before the American Civil War and thus may reflect the real origin of the, quote, Memorial Day, unquote, idea. Memorial Day is not to be confused with Veterans Day. Memorial Day is a day of remembering the men and women who died while serving, while Veterans Day celebrates the service of all U.S. A. The practice of decorating soldiers' graves with flowers is an ancient custom. Soldiers' graves were decorated in the U.S. before and during the American Civil War. A claim was made in 1906 that the first Civil War soldier's grave ever decorated was in Warrenton, Virginia on June 3, 1861, implying the first Memorial Day occurred there. There is authentic documentation that women in Sayona, Georgia, decorated soldiers' graves in 1862. In 1863, the cemetery dedication at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, was a ceremony of commemoration at the graves of dead soldiers. Local historians in Boalsburg, Pennsylvania, claim that ladies there decorated soldiers' graves on July 4, 1864. As a result, Boalsburg promotes itself as the birthplace of Memorial Day. Following President Abraham Lincoln's assassination in April 1865, there were a variety of events of commemoration. The first well-known observance of a Memorial Day type observance after the Civil War was in Charleston, South Carolina on May 1, 1865. During the war, Union soldiers who were prisoners of war had been held at the Charleston race course. At least 257 Union prisoners died there and were hastily buried in unmarked graves. Together with teachers and missionaries, black residents of Charleston organized a May Day ceremony in 1865, which was covered by the New York Tribune and other national papers. The Freedom cleaned up and landscaped the burial ground, building an enclosure and an arch labeled Martyrs of the Race Course. Nearly 10,000 people, mostly freedmen, gathered on May 1st to commemorate the war dead. Involved were about 3,000 school children newly enrolled in freedmen's schools, mutual aid societies, Union troops, black ministers, and white Northern missionaries. Most brought flowers to lay on the burial field. Today, the site is used as Hampton Park. Years later, the celebration would come to be called the First Decoration in the North. David W. Blight described the day. This was the first Memorial Day African Americans invented. Memorial Day in Charleston, South Carolina. What you have there is Black Americans recently freed from slavery announcing to the world with their flowers, their feet, and their songs what the war had been about. What they basically were creating was the Independence Day of a second American Revolution. However, Blight stated that he, quote unquote, has no evidence that this event in Charleston inspired the establishment of Memorial Day across the country. The sheer number of soldiers of both sides who died in the Civil War, more than 600,000, meant that the burial and memorialization took on a new cultural significance. Under the leadership of women during the war, an increasingly formal practice of decorating graves had taken shape. In 1865, the federal government began creating national military cemeteries for the Union war dead. On May 26, 1966, President Johnson signed a presidential proclamation naming Waterloo, New York, as the birthplace of Memorial Day. Earlier, the 89th Congress adopted House Concurrent Resolution 587, which officially recognized that the patriotic tradition of observing Memorial Day began 100 years prior in Waterloo, New York. In the summer of 1865, a local druggist, Henry Wells, while talking to friends, suggests that it might be good to remember those soldiers who did not make it home from the Civil War. Not much came of it until he mentioned it to General John B. Murray, a Civil War hero, who gathered support from other surviving veterans. On May 5, 1866, they marched to the 3 local cemeteries and decorated the graves of fallen soldiers. Waterloo still celebrates Memorial Day on May 30th.